Thank you for watching the Housing Oregon YouTube channel. Be sure to join our network and get involved in the work that we are doing. If you can, please like and subscribe. It helps us build this channel, which serves as a platform to communicate with our members. This video is part of our 2025 annual conference. We're looking for folks to be on the conference planning committee. Please email info@housingoregon.org.
And I won't stand in front of that. So, hello. Are you awake? Okay. Well, we are really excited to present this morning because here's the reason we're excited is because this has worked for us amazingly well, what we're about to tell you about. And so we're speaking from a place of experience, we're speaking from a place of success, not 100% success, but enough. You learn from your mistakes or your failures or whatever, and so we've learned how to do that really well. So I am just going to introduce us really quickly, and then I'm telling you this ahead of time so that you can start thinking. I'd like to know why you're here. I'd like to know what outcome you would like to get out of today. Okay? And hopefully it's not
Does this one? Yeah, there we go.
thanks. So hopefully it's not just because you had to go to a workshop and this looked the closest. So I hope there's a really good reason that kind of helps us with our talking, and we make sure that we're hitting some of the points you guys are here to look for. So we are St. Vincent de Paul Resident Services Team, and St. Vincent de Paul is pretty big in Lane County. We have 50 properties. We are the largest houser in Lane County, and we have the most awesome resident services team on the planet, basically. So my name is Kathy Isaacson. Did you need? Does anybody need interpretation? Okay, thank you. All right, so my name is Kathy Isaacson. I'm the manager for the Resident Services Department. I've been in the affordable housing field for many, many years and seen a lot of changes happening over the years. But I'm really excited where we are right now, and I'll introduce you to the team. Mary Major will be the first one. She's been with us for about 4 years. Eric Bollingberg has been with us. She's in her second year. Megan Wessel is in 4th year. And Lanny Spring is our old timer. She's been with us for about 9 years. So we are excited to be here. Why are you here? Anybody want to venture out and say why you're here? I know it takes a little bit of courage to just speak out. Yes.
Hi, we do case management in Clackamas County, and when we have participants that are in housing and they start to get notices or there start to be behaviors that are putting them at risk for eviction, we'd like a tool to be able to sit down, have a document, have them sign it and say, this is what we've identified and these are the steps we need you to take to prevent that. Or if they've been evicted and they're going into another place, what kind of plan can we have in place so that same stuff doesn't happen again? So that's what we're looking for.
I think you're in the right place. I think we're going to address that exactly, right, team? Anybody else? Thank you for that. Anybody else?
So I work in the landlord liaison program in New Narrative, and we operate in Multnomah County.
Test 1 2.
We work with housing service providers who are providing case management services to those who are receiving rental assistance. And on the other side, we work with the landlords and property managers who are renting those folks directly. And so oftentimes we're put in situations where we have to navigate evictions, navigate lease violations, and we're always looking for new strategies and different strategies. And oftentimes what we find is that communication is oftentimes the best strategy for eviction prevention.
Communication solves 99% of our problems. Issues. Anybody else while I'm back here? Last chance. Okay. Well, we're going to get going. So, Miriam, I'm going to hand it over to you.
It does work. Okay, thank you. How about now? Does this one work? Yes, it does. Okay. I'm sorry. So throughout the next hour, we're going to be presenting our model for creating action plans and eviction prevention, utilizing upstream interventions, harm reduction principles, and motivational interviewing. This program has shown to be effective not only in preventing eviction, but also improving the quality of life for residents. Before we get started, though, I do want to make sure that everyone got a copy of the PowerPoint and our little yellow booklet. Obviously, everybody has one because we put them on every table. Okay. So we also want to take a minute to introduce you to a couple more folks, Georgine and Brett. Georgine is one of our residents in our housing, and Brett is the on-site manager of the property she lives at, and you are going to be seeing a lot of them throughout this presentation.
Georgine Perino. I had been the master of social isolation for 5 years, so I was surprised at how stuck I was in that isolation thing. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I still don't. But I mean, it was pretty extreme.
Hi, I'm Brett Cannon. I'm the on-site manager for St. Vincent de Paul at Stella Apartments in Eugene, Oregon. So the resident service coordinator department was something completely new to me, and I had to kind of grow and learn from them. And they've always been very supportive of the tenants, any tenant's needs. Tenant needs food, they find resources to get those tenants food. And they're also very supportive of their on-sites. I'm very appreciative of the resident services department doing that and having such a willingness to just jump right in with us and resolve situations or problems. Very appreciative.
Thanks, Brett. So nice. So when resident services, Georgine. When resident services began to get involved with inspections, we realized the importance of taking a more trauma-informed approach with inspections. And so regardless of what agency you represent or housing type, we know that when people know an inspection is coming, it does invoke some type of feelings. Does anything come to mind when I say that? Any feelings that maybe people have expressed to you or you in your personal life when you know you're going to have an inspection in your home? Anyone? Anxiety, absolutely. Is there anything else that you think someone might experience? Shame, fear, Yeah, confusion. Okay, yeah, feelings aren't always consistent.
No, the
The inspections are not consistent.
years ago, I didn't pass last year, but the department looked the same.
That makes that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So you mentioned everything that's on our slide, and so the best way that we have found to combat these feelings is upstream intervention. And to execute that, we have created an inspection readiness program. The program entails giving our residents as much information as we can to let them know what they're how they can prepare for our visit. So 2 to 3 weeks before the process begins, we actually will give each resident a copy of this letter. And it's just saying why we're there, why we need to inspect, when inspections will be, and what we're looking at when we come into their home. We do take pictures during our inspections, so we think it's good to prepare people for that too. In addition to this letter, Resident Services also conducts an inspection readiness class. And it's a really good opportunity for residents to gain knowledge and ask questions and address any concerns or any feelings that they might have about their upcoming inspection. It's also a great opportunity for residents to build relationships amongst each other and with the resident services coordinators. And you can see at the bottom, we like to entice people to come by offering them pizza, because if you feed them, they will come. Another great tool we have is our booklets, which everyone has a copy of. Everyone who attends our class will receive one of these booklets. It outlines, again, what we're going in to look at. It even has pictures of an acceptable situation versus what might a lease violation look like. So it's very inclusive for people because they get to see pictures in color. And then another upstream intervention strategy that we have is a pre-inspection. So folks can schedule a pre-inspection with a resident services coordinator, and it is just the resident services coordinator going in. There's no documentation, there are no pictures being taken, but it's a chance for us to come in ahead of time and just take a look around and say, oh, I see this might be considered a lease violation. So before we come back for your actual inspection, maybe move this piece of furniture away from the window or what have you. And this graph here is actually showing statistical significance of our readiness program. These are real numbers using real data that we have collected, and you can see the difference in people who have attended our class and then had a passing inspection versus people who have not attended pass versus non-pass scenarios. And we do have copies of that quantifiable data up here if anyone would like to look at it. So what does a harm reductionist inspection look like? During our inspections, the on-site manager will take pictures of the unit and they will address any maintenance concerns. But the resident services coordinators are there to answer any questions and reassure the residents that we are there to work with them, not against them. And we will also discreetly assess for any potential additional supports that might be needed in the home. Does the person need a caregiver? Is this maybe a call that needs to be made to Adult Protective Services or Child Protective Services? It's also a great opportunity for lease education. It doesn't necessarily have to be a findings on the inspection. It can just be a quick conversation of, this is a fire hazard, can you please remove it? And don't ever put it back. Here's a great story that during last year's inspection season, there was one unit that I inspected. It was a much older gentleman. His name is Wayne. And he lives alone with his 2 cats in an upstairs studio apartment. When we entered, we discovered a lot of health and safety concerns. There were animal feces on the floor, and there was a pretty bad fly infestation and maggots in the kitchen. And, it was a little on the extreme side. And later when I followed up with him privately, I did develop a good rapport with him in a relationship. And he started to share with me some personal things going on in his life. I learned he was losing his vision and he was malnourished, so he wasn't very healthy himself. He was struggling with getting up and down the stairs. So he was struggling with doing his laundry and taking his garbage out on a regular basis. And his cats also weren't in very good health either. So I came back and I visited with Wayne every couple of weeks. And I was able to get him connected with a case manager who then was able to get him connected with in-home care services. And so I'm really excited to see what his apartment looks like this year when we go back for our inspections. So back to our inspection process. Once the inspection is complete, the notes are reviewed, and within the next couple of weeks, the resident will receive a letter in the mail. If no violations have been found, they will receive a letter that looks like this. So we don't like the no news is good news approach. We like to say, you know, congratulations, we didn't find any violations in your home. Thanks for taking great care of your unit. But if there are any violations that are found or any corrections that need to be made by the resident, they will receive a findings letter that looks like this. It clearly states the violation and what they can do to correct it. We like to include pictures with arrows so it says exactly what they need to do. Later down in the letter, it tells them how they need to respond to this and how long they have to respond to it. Staff site are always available for assistance with this process for everyone. So if they don't understand still, they need more clarification, or if they want help responding to the findings, we can help them write their letter. We can even go back and take the correction pictures for them and send them in. They have 2 weeks to do this, and unfortunately, not everybody does even respond within those 2 weeks. Maybe they don't understand the importance of what we're trying to get them to do. Maybe they don't have the capacity it takes to make the necessary adjustments, but we are experts at identifying those needs, and we use motivational interviewing to do that. And we're going to hear a little bit more from our other friends, Georgine and Brett.
When we're looking for mainly health and safety for the tenant, but also protecting our assets. So before action plans were set up, when I first became an on-site with St. Vincent de Paul, the process is way different. Basically, we do the annual inspections, and if there was some kind of issue going on, collecting an apartment, health issues, safety issues, the resident really wasn't given an opportunity to rectify that situation. They were just automatically sent a 1430, which means you have 14 days to rectify this problem, or you're going to be evicted in 30 days. If I had an overly cluttered apartment and I was told I had 14 days to clear it all up, I wouldn't even know where to begin. I'd have so much anxiety over the situation. And as far as the tenants, no tenant wants to see a 1430 on their door. It's, to them, they're wondering, where am I going to go? What's going to happen? Can I find another place to live? And as a property manager, I don't want to post a 1430 on somebody's wall. We're in the business of housing people, keeping people housed. And for me, the worst thing is to see somebody go down a potential eviction process. It doesn't make me feel good. I know it doesn't make the tenant feel good.
Oh, I was dreading it. I thought for sure I'd be living in a grocery cart. I thought, this is the end.
Oh, living conditions. The place was cluttered. Very, very cluttered.
Well, comfortable. I'm not comfortable with anything. I complain about everything. And no, I wasn't comfortable with it. I was, I was not comfortable with it. It was hard to get around, and I was ashamed of it. I mean, I was never a neat freak, but I was a lot better than that. I have had a few people in before that I reached through Craigslist, and for one reason or another, they just didn't work out.
So an action plan is initiated for several reasons. There can be the cleanliness issue in an apartment. There can be a safety issue in the apartment, such as stuff being stacked too high. And one of the main things we come across is collectors. Way too much personal property in the unit, which restricts, again, a gurney movement should something happen. Or if it's a second or third story apartment, there's also the consideration of weight on those floors and how much they can handle. So we try to keep the excessiveness down. And if we come across an apartment that has those issues, resident service coordinators initiate contact with that tenant, kind of explain what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, and try to resolve the problem, which I've seen the problems be resolved. Fill in, we're looking for.
Hello, my name is Erica, and so what exactly is an action plan? It is a set of goals that we use to lead the resident back into complying with their lease, because that is super important. Ooh, thank you. Is that better? I hope it is. So that they can thrive in their housing and community. An action plan consists of an action plan agreement, us physically going into their home, setting small and large goals, and then picking a few words that they want their home to feel like whenever they come in. It's always nice to come home to a clean, comfortable space. So no one wants to be crowded, or, well, sometimes they do. And then we go over our agreement. We set up our times to meet. And then if that doesn't work, we also have a more aggressive plan that lasts 6 months, and we'll go over all of that in this next section. So an action plan agreement is, there we go. I'm so sorry, I keep putting that down. The agreement is just us meeting with them for the first part. We really ask questions in that section. How are you feeling in your home? What do you need? Do we need to bring in outside assistance? Why is your home like this? Sometimes it's just that they don't care for their home. I'm sorry, I honestly, this is about as loud as I get. I am so sorry if you can't hear me. We go over so many points, and then whenever all of that is finally said and done, we go over the action plan agreement. As you can see up here, we have this in our small packets up here. Whenever you're done, if you guys want to come up and grab one of those, it'll have all of our pieces that you see up on the slides as well in that packet for you guys. We go over everything in here, which is meeting times, stipulations, expecting all of the goals to be met, and cancellation. You're allowed 2 cancellations in the full year before we go in for a reassessment, which is absolutely amazing. Sometimes life happens and you need to be flexible. So we set small goals. There we go. And those are attainable through community partners. Sometimes we need to reach out to senior and disabilities. We get in-home care set up, which is amazing. We reach out to friends and family. Sometimes people are isolated from their friends and family because they've been in their home for too long. COVID happened. People get comfortable and they forget to reach out. We also look at local nonprofit areas and churches in the community. Sometimes we just need some volunteers to help, which is absolutely amazing. And if they're part of any social clubs, I don't know, knitting. I know that most places that we have a community room, and people are able to rent those out and have like knitting groups or game nights, which is totally amazing for connection and building community partnerships. So the actual action plan, the meat and potatoes of this, if you will, for those of you that just came in, hello. We are going through their home. We look at everything in it and we find those immediate concerns. Is there fire hazards? Are there smoke detectors like broken? We look at all of those types of things first. Tripping hazards, fall hazards, anything that can hurt them. We want to address those first. And then we also want to look at the physical side of things. Can they move in their apartment? Do they need shower bars? Do they need anything that will make their lives easier, whether that's outside help to prep meals or just help cleaning? Sometimes people have underlying problems like COPD, or I have one resident who is immunocompromised. He has problems standing for long periods of time. Miss Georgine, I'm actually her RSC, so the lady that you're seeing in the film, she is absolutely amazing. She worked really hard, and sometimes it was just one box at a time. We'll pick a few goals, write them down, and then she went through and picked one to where she wasn't exhausted by the next time that we met her. The action plan extension agreement. If they are on the action plan for 1 full year and they do not pass their next inspection, we move to a more in-depth program. It is the same agreement with stiffer regulations for cancellation. Progress is needed on every visit, whether that's a little bit or a lot. And the expectation of progress is a lot wider. We expect a whole room to be done instead of just a small portion, because they are severely at risk of losing their home, and we don't want that. We're in the business of keeping people in their housing. Go. We are consistently assessing all the time, whether that's from the very beginning, seeing them outdoors, seeing them in their homes. We are always assessing. We're adjusting our programs to fit their mental and physical capacity, and that is wildly important. We don't want to set a goal that is unattainable and then they get depressed about not being able to meet those goals. Discouragement is something that we don't encourage. We are the hugest cheerleaders. This one right here next to me, Miss Megan, is a huge cheerleader. She'll be in people's apartments like, yay, you did this, and we're all like that. We build the support plan with teams both inside and outside of the home. So the staffing that we have on site is also a team that they have a resource to. And we prioritize addressing hazards that are an immediate danger first. The resident services is the first line of defense whenever it comes to harm reduction.
Yeah, so usually when we talk about harm reduction, we are talking about it in the world of substance use. However, we have also found these principles to be really applicable to our work. So how we use housing, as housing providers, how we use harm reduction. We can't allow residents to remain out of compliance with their lease agreement, but we can approach the problems in a way that reduces stress and avoids the traumatization of violation or eviction notices. So first and foremost, anytime we talk with a resident, we're using trauma-informed language and practices. We also use motivational interviewing to work with the resident in achieving their goals that work for all of us. We affirm the resident as the primary agent of change in their own life. They're the ones doing the work, and so they set their own goals based on their current capacity and priorities. These goals can change at any time, and there's really no punishment if goals are not met. We simply talk about why they weren't met, and then we set more achievable goals for the next time. We try to stay non-judgmental as much as we possibly can. We understand that there will be setbacks, regressions, and frustrations, and allow space for them when they inevitably come up. We encourage development in all areas, not just in the areas that are causing the least noncompliance. For example, I had one single mother that I worked with. She was on an action plan, and she chose to include parenting classes as a goal for hers, because she believed it would benefit her ability to work on the other issues as well. So we're increasing the overall quality of life and well-being while we're working with these folks. And again, we understand that the lease compliance is necessary, but we try to minimize our punitive actions. We prioritize immediate dangers and hazardous conditions because those are the things that we absolutely cannot overlook. but everything else can be addressed at a later time. We respect their home and their personal space in our language and actions, while also making sure that the area is safe for our staff to be working in, and they're also not posing a risk to any of their neighbors or other guests. So, and finally, we use really small goals with quantifiable progress. So we can use goal letters, pictures, or journal logs to track the progress over time. And these are totally optional, but we strongly encourage them because it can be really helpful to look back at them when we need motivation, when setbacks and frustrations occur. So I want to introduce you again to Brett and Georgine. They're going to talk about what Georgine's action plan looked like.
Resident service coordinator sounds to me like gobbledygook that you say to cover your own legal aspects and blah, blah, blah. It sounds like something you just say, but she actually does it. She did coordinate services, gosh, I don't remember exactly, 10 months ago, is that all? She's been around forever and been very helpful, but okay, 10 months, I'll take her word for it. Just, who's this friendly lady bothering me? She's just very friendly, and it annoyed me.
I wasn't involved with Georgina's action plan that much. Erica and I went in and did the initial inspection. I took the pictures. Erica took notes. We pretty much knew that this was going to go down an action plan. And my role in it since then has been to, Erica may have questions, and she may show me pictures because she was going in on a weekly basis and getting pictures of the progress that was being made in the apartment. And she may have had some questions for me about one part of the apartment and maybe what could we do different? How could we look at it different? How could we present it to the tenant differently that all makes sense for everybody? Outside of supporting Erica along the process of working with Georgine, that's mainly been my role.
Oh, not just getting my house in order, but just the idea of, it's kind of like training a feral cat to let you come in and pet it once a week. It's because I was like, meow. I just, leave me alone. About once a week, we set it up so that Erica would come by about once a week at 10 o'clock, was it? And once I got used to having another human being in my apartment, it was okay. Would ask me, what would you like to tackle next? And of course, I didn't want to tackle anything, but she'd say, well, how about that box? Just that box. How about, can you commit to working on that? And yeah, I could do that. She made very manageable suggestions about small increments, and it was not as daunting. I never believed that I would have the progress that I had. I never thought it would work out. I thought she was being very hopeful and kind and not bright. But I was the one who wasn't bright, and she was really a great cheerleader. That small increments is key. And at first, I would leave a sheet of paper with like 3 things on it that I could consider doing. And after a while, we just talked about it, and that was enough. I think that the frequency her being here as a trustworthy, helpful person was key in melting my resistance. I didn't say breakdown. She didn't break anything. She just kind of melted the resistance with her kindness and consistency.
So this new process of an action plan, actually working with the tenant, going back to the small increments, cleaning up in the apartment and doing whatever needs to be done, I think it's beneficial for St. Denis to keep our people housed, which we're in the business of doing, and helping the tenants to go down a road that's much easier and with less anxiety, and feeling that they're going to be able to keep their housing.
Yes, and sometimes I just couldn't do the goal. Like today I'm on a really down level today. It has nothing to do with events. It's just the way my chemistry is. But sometimes I would just say, I didn't do it. I didn't do anything. And she said, oh, you've done something. You just don't realize it. And it was fine. I never felt, beforehand, I would think, oh, she's going to be disappointed I didn't get it done. But she never expressed disappointment. She would always do that glass is half full nonsense where, oh, it's not as bad as you think it is. I've seen places that are way worse, and you're going to do a little bit at a time, and just really contextualizing what I had done. It very helpful. I even began to believe her.
I think it's really important. I think a tenant, if they have any kind of mental situation going on, depression, bodily aches or pains, I think they look at the whole apartment and it's just overwhelming to try to think about, how am I going to clear up this many years of stuff that I've collected in the apartment? And what I think is incremental in what Erica does, and I'm sure the other RSCs do it too, but she calms the tenant by just saying, little bit at a time, one little piece at a time. Keep the anxiety of the tenant down and let them see that this is a possible process, just moving slowly, not overwhelming them, a little bit at a time. And as that tenant starts to see just little sections of their apartment starting to improve and look better, I believe it helps them in just how they feel living in their apartment.
Okay, so yeah, Georgine's a hoot. We love her, but so action plans are really beneficial for everyone involved. For the resident, they avoid the stress and trauma of a legal eviction process or any other punitive action, such as that 1430 notice that we mentioned. We also bring in the additional supportive networks to improve their overall quality of life and well-being. And they also gain the benefit of living in a place without hazardous living conditions. So we also have seen some unexpected benefits. For example, Georgine is more comfortable having guests over now, and she's also combating those feelings of loneliness and social isolation. The single mother that I talked about earlier, she reconnected with her spiritual beliefs after reaching out to her old church for support. And for a number of residents as well, having in-home care brought in is helping their physical health by allowing them to maintain hygiene, nutrition, and medication management. So for property management, it's also beneficial to avoid evictions because they can be expensive and really time-consuming. Also, maintaining lease compliance helps by limiting complaints from neighbors, avoiding incidents caused by hazards, and saves money by adequately managing assets. So, eliminating hazards and lowering the overall risk is essential to keep staff, guests, and residents safe and secure. We only do action plans if the resident wants to. We can't force them for both legal and ethical reasons. And so if the resident would rather remedy whatever the non-compliance is in the 2 weeks allowed, then they're allowed to do that. If for some reason that they cannot remedy the non-compliance in 2 weeks, we first use motivational interviewing. So we find the residents' motivations for change and explain how an action plan would contribute to these goals. So for some, facing eviction is not enough of a motivation to initiate changes. Sometimes it lies in wanting to provide a safer place for their children, or maintaining their health, or feeling comfortable inviting people over again. So whatever this personal motivation is, we can talk about how an action plan would be used to contribute to their goals, and also bring them into compliance with their lease. If a resident is still not convinced that an action plan can help them, we can explore the alternatives. We can talk about whether a higher level of care might be appropriate, or trying to live with family or friends. Then we reassess whether an action plan is the right choice, or if they need assistance in finding somewhere else to go. And using this process, one woman that I worked with, she decided her entire action plan would just be to find a skilled nursing facility that she qualified for. And so we were there to support her in that process of moving. And if none of these discussions lead the resident to being compliant with their lease or entering an action plan, the issue is then escalated. They will be sent a final warning letter. A meeting is set between the resident and the property management, and they will receive a 1430 notice, but they can still remedy this notice by entering the action plan. If all else fails and the matter is taken to court, a court-stipulated agreement can be entered to keep them in their housing. So we're going to let Georgine tell you what benefits she got.
They're very positive. They always try to keep everything positive, reassuring the tenant in a positive way that things are going to be okay. We're going to get through this. And for the resources, and Georgina brought it up, Erica helped her and filled out the paperwork for her because she said that it was just too overwhelming. And I think it's hard for her to fill out paperwork, especially a lot of paperwork. How wonderful was it that an RSC went in there, first of all, found the resources for Georgine, and then went in there and filled out all the paperwork for her, and found her, Georgine, people she was comfortable with having in her apartment. She's not worried about them being in there, and it's just been a positive step since this action plan was initiated, the help for Georgine was initiated. I can't say more about the RSC program.
Oh, yeah, and I take her for granted because she has granted me a lot of comfort. She did a lot of filling out forms and stuff. I don't know if she's the one who got me in touch with the current caregivers. Yeah, that's been huge, huge to have these caregivers come in. And again, I didn't want them in here either, but I mean, it's that, or I don't know what the or is, but they've been very helpful and very nice. I like the current people. They're very professional and courteous, and yeah, they're very helpful.
Takes the weight off your shoulders.
Oh, it's the difference between being here and not being here. I mean, I couldn't do it anymore. not that it was that much. I mean, anyway, they have been really helpful.
Action plans, I've seen it work. We just went into a place and saw that it worked. And I think all property management companies should adopt a plan to where they implement something, maybe not exactly like St. Vincent's action plan, but something similar to it to help the tenant, help them get back to a place where they're happy in their apartment, they're safe and and healthy in their apartment, and there's not going to be concerns down the road for the tenant or for the property management company. It seems like a positive way to really handle a situation that can be really, really difficult.
Supported?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I really did.
Yeah, Georgine's humor is coming back. She used to have a little bit of a sense of humor, but I've really seen it grow, especially over the last year since her apartment has been getting put back into appropriate shape. I think it's good for mental health because she can look at her place and be happy in her place and not look around and think, how am I going to get this done? How am I going to clean up this section of my apartment? So I believe for her own well-being and her humor, it's just been an incredible process. Where Georgine, she hasn't always had her walker to help her move through the apartment. That's just been a recent addition for her. And before the action plan took place and Erica started working with her, the walker was pretty much not even an option in her apartment. So I think for that, for her health and safety, just to be able to get around, make sure she's not falling down, I think it's incredible what has happened in that apartment.
I still don't like the idea of having people in my house, period. But I understand the need for it. I'm receiving a benefit, and of course, it's up to the benefactors to kind of keep an eye on me and see that I'm not like throwing potatoes in the sink and stuff. I would do it again, and if it were possible, I would have opened up sooner. It was essential for me to be here, to be able to continue to reside here. Yeah, I don't think I could not have accomplished the cleanup without help. I mean, and incrementally, it's like I expected a grand sweep in it for all to be better, and that's not how it works. It was in increments, and she just very patiently, I don't know how she did it, but she did it. Trained the feral cat that I had become.
They're very
Whoops, there we go. So as you can see here, we've had 19 action plans since we first started them in 2022. 3 have been discontinued, meaning they left the action plan for any reason. 6 have graduated and they no longer need support from their RSC other than what we provide normally. And 10 are still in progress. They're very time intensive. It can take a long time to see meaningful progress, which is why we haven't had more. But we hope to see many, many more graduations in the future. And so with that, I'm going to turn it back over to our lovely manager, Kathy.
Thank you, team. I really hope you learned something today. And we have a few minutes. If you have any questions, comments, we would love to hear those. We'd love to be able to answer any questions. We'll be up here afterwards. Also, if you have some detailed questions that's specific to your situation or whatever. But Miriam will bring the microphone to you. I see one right back there.
Yes, I was just wondering sort of how long the action plans take. Like how much time do they get to work through the process before management's like, we have to move forward?
Initially, they get a year. They get up to a year. And then if we go back to the inspection to do the next annual inspection and they still haven't cleaned it up, or because we are doing monthly check-ins or even weekly check-ins, we know kind of the progress that they're making, we will give them another 6 months. And then that's kind of when we start dropping the hammer a little bit, especially in the situations where there's really severe clutter or the fire hazards or those kind of things. And actually, if it's really super severe and hazards, that kind of thing, we will, those are the things we address very first. And I'm not sure if we would actually give them a year to address a fire hazard. You know, it just depends. Every single one of these action plans are different. So does that answer your question though? Yeah.
Yeah, I was curious if you have data on the number of households that reject an action plan, and if that's common.
Do you have?
Yeah, I'm our data whiz. We have not tracked that specifically. We can see the 3 that were discontinued. That is usually because they have started on the action plan process and they either say this is too much or I'd rather just move somewhere else. So those 3 are really the ones that we have tracked so far. But in all honesty, most of the time people will choose. And if they don't have a whole lot to do, sometimes these action plans only last a couple months in those kind of cases. So again, it really is just case by case.
Just wanted to follow up very quickly. Yeah, so I work a lot with market rate property managers, and we find that they're oftentimes a little bit hesitant to engage in something like this. And so I'd love to see kind of that push for more data, so that, I mean, this is the type of stuff that we'd love to be able to put in front of property managers so that they can know that this is an effective strategy to be able to resolve some of these problems. And so, yeah, love to see data and more of it.
And we will put up our contact information on a slide, and you're welcome to come up afterwards and ask for any of that information too. So.
And actually, Megan said she's not a data whiz, but she totally is a data whiz. Don't believe her. She's being much too humble. Yeah, and that would be really good information to have. So we'll work on that. There's another one right here, Miriam.
I know in one of the slides that it said it's not necessary, that it can be about more than cleaning or not just specific to cleaning. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about action plans for things besides cleaning. Like, would any 1430 trigger an action plan? I'm thinking about like dogs off leash, noise complaints, children, misbehaving in the parking lot, that kind of stuff.
Thank you, because I was actually supposed to say that, and I totally forgot. So I couldn't have scripted that any better. Yes, we do action plans for behavior. We get a lot of complaints from neighbors. For instance, there was a resident just recently who was into death metal, and he was playing his death metal music at 2 o'clock in the morning. And he didn't understand quite what the problem with that was. He worked during the day, and then he wasn't ready to go to bed at night, and he forgot everybody else did that. And so we lots of complaints from the neighbors, of course. And so we just sat down and said, hey, we don't want to give you a 1430 on this. We're trying to avoid that because we think you can fix this pretty easily. And it was a action plan of find another place for, he came up with it. We said, you can't do this anymore. You can't practice there. What are you going to do? Okay, I can move my music to the garage, or to my friend's garage. We can do this. He also has some dog issues. What are you going to do? You're not picking up after your dog. Okay, what's the very first thing you're going to do? I'm going to go to the dollar store and I'm going to get some dog bags. I mean, really, things that maybe seems pretty basic to us, when you just break it down and say, why aren't you picking up after your dog? And they say, because I have no bags. Well, then how can you remedy that? How can you fix that? And this guy, he fixed it right away. And so that action plan took almost no time whatsoever. I think the action plan was actually figuring out what to do. And then he was able to go out and do that. And what I like is it's very non-confrontive. You know, we're not saying, okay, you're about ready to get evicted. In fact, the very first thing I say is, we want you to stay here. My priority is that you stay housed. And instantly, you see their shoulders drop, you see them take a deep breath, and suddenly it's like, okay, we're just going to solve this problem. There's no debate, there's no, conflict. So, anything else? All the way on the other side of the room.
I was just wondering if you could speak a little bit more to like what those interactions look like with property management, or like if you have in your head of like, I'm checking back in with property management once a week, or one, like however often, following up that way. Yeah, just curious about that. Back and forth.
Absolutely. So, like I said, in the agreement that we have a weekly, biweekly, or monthly, and that is all in there as well. And then we just literally go into their home. There's no excuses allowed on action plans unless, like, it's an emergency. I'm physically going in, like with Miss Georgine, and sitting down in her living room for up to half an hour, filling out paperwork, going over how she's feeling, how she is making her progress work. As you saw in those photos, whenever we first started, you couldn't even see her couch. And it was just one tiny little step at a time. Just, can you clear off this cushion for this coming up week? And she, looking you dead in the eye, having us in the home with them keeps them accountable.
Did that answer your question?
You're closer. So.
Do you do this at all of your 50 properties, or is this just done at, so the numbers that you have up there is all 50 properties of the folks that are facing this need?
Yes, we do it at all 50 properties. However, we don't always get around to all 50 properties in a timely fashion, if that makes sense. It probably totally doesn't.
Is your caseload smaller?
So this is our entire resident services team for all of our properties right here. So we don't necessarily spend office hours or do events at all 50 properties because we go, I mean, Megan works in Marion County, and then we have properties all the way down in Oak Ridge as well. And then very heavily concentrated in Eugene and Springfield. But for the most part, we're only consistently providing services for 16 properties at once. But we do annual inspections at all of our properties. So a resident services coordinator will accompany an on-site manager for those outlying, more remote properties, and then that person then becomes the representative if someone needs an action plan. We will be the one to initiate it and continue to go back. So yes, in essence, we do provide that for all of our properties.
But because we're stretched so thin, we don't make it to all the properties, at least in a timely fashion. And so, but we do our best to get out there when we can. We make sure nobody is evicted. I mean, we're not like evicting people in the properties we don't get to. If we see somebody that needs it to avoid eviction, we will be there. All right, so it's available. Over here, oh.
Were these people first? I don't know.
They're closer over there, so go ahead.
Hi. Hi, just a point of clarity. Are you guys property managers as well as RSCs, or is it two different entities?
We are all in the same property management department. Yes, we are under property management.
Coordinators are not, they're under property management, not under like services.
We're all one.
You're all of it.
We're all
we
one.
don't, but we don't do the management piece. We don't give notices. The resident services don't. We're the good guys of the process. So we work side by side with the property managers. So we don't actually manage the properties. Most of our properties have a on-site manager that lives on site.
Is that under the umbrella of St. Vincent?
St. Vincent de Paul is, yes, the housing provider. We have on-site managers, and we also have resident services coordinators.
So is it ever a case where you have to do a little bit of a stronger advocacy for the resident to the property management team? And what does that look like?
We've had to do that a lot, especially in the beginning. This was a new concept, and we presented the trauma informed. Aren't we about keeping people housed rather than evicting people? Well, then let's see how we can do that better. And I have to say, we had a great department head, director of our department that said, "You guys are absolutely right." They listened to us. I know that doesn't always happen, but it did in our case, and we got we feel that we are very fortunate in that. And now all the different, we have a resident retention team, we have a compliance team, and we have a on-site management team and the resource service coordinator team, and we all work together. We have broken down the walls, and that has been a key to making this happen. Yeah. Okay, Miriam, you have to go over here now.
I had the same question as well about the connection between property management and the service staff, where for our work that we do, we are working in site-based, in scattered site programs, scattered site apartment buildings. We are not the property manager. We have some property managers who I can see would love this, totally be on board, and others we will hear, this violates fair housing because what I do for this unit, I have to do for this unit. They both got, notices, and I'm getting rid of everyone. For folks like that, where again, they're not part of the same company, they don't come to our meetings, it's not a spiritual kumbaya at all. Any advice on what we could do to sell this, and particularly about fair housing? Because we will constantly hear this, I have to treat everyone the same, and this violates fair housing.
Yeah, we heard that too. And basically how we address this, it doesn't violate fair housing for the reason that this is an option for anyone and everyone who wants it. They can choose to participate or not. And so, again, we got really lucky with who we have, and Kathy has been an excellent advocate for our team and for our philosophy. And so I can say I feel for you. And I do understand, we all understand that we just advocate on the behalf that, again, we're trying to keep people housed, and we will work with everyone as long as we can, and that is what allows us to do this. However, in those cases where you have a property manager who does not agree, I mean, it's a hard situation all around.
I think showing them that data, though, of how it's more cost effective because the eviction process is so expensive, court fees, the cost of turning a unit versus just, oh, let's just keep this person. They can continue to pay rent while they're here, and we work with them. We're also eliminating hazards in the process. So it's a safer environment for everyone around them, including the maintenance team. And so that's another way to go at it.
Does that help? Great.
I'm going to go here, and then I have to go over there, and then I'll come over here.
I was just curious about it sounds like you have to negotiate the timeline with the property manager, because if they're giving a thing and you're doing like the small step-by-step thing, it sounds like it might take a couple months. So do you work with them to like make a different kind of notice, or what do you guys do?
Yes, yes, I do. A lot of us are gonna have people that can't do a lot. So like I said, we're consistently assessing that every time we go in that 2-week period. If they haven't met that goal, why aren't they meeting it? Do they need help? Do we need to pull in someone else to help them? And we are always, always, always assessing. And I can't stress that enough. We're continuously assessing everything in the apartment. Yeah, it does take a long time. Like I said, the plan is the first one is a year, and then they get an additional 6 months after that. So it is time intensive, and it's not just going to be an overnight process.
And that's where having everybody on board, because that's a philosophy, right? That is we will give them this much time. And so you get a cranky property manager who says, I don't want to do that. They don't have a choice. This is how we're doing that. And it's worked very well.
And we do have a little bit different situation than I think a lot of other housing agencies, in that we're all the same company. Resident Services is like St. Vincent de Paul has the resident services team as well. So we do have to work together. And when people enter into an action plan, it is an agreement. It's a signed, it's a document. It's just right in line with their rental agreement. They are agreeing that they will do this. And so that might help the management as well, knowing that, okay, we're on an agreement. It's not quite like a court ordered, it's not signed by a judge, but it is an agreement with the property manager. So, well, motivation, I guess. Okay.
I guess that kind of like brings up the next part of the what you're bringing up as your funding. I know a lot of like places that do resident services, they have their funding separate from property management, and vice versa when they have case management. Is your funding based off of property management, or is that based off a separate section just in case you don't get along?
In case you don't get along. That's a layered question, and we do a golf tournament every year to raise money for resident services, if that sort of answers the question. But then we are also, with the model that we have, the company, have you heard of the St. Vinny's thrift stores? The company is able to, it's an alternate source of funding that sometimes we have to dip into. And then they also try to have the property budgets cover that money too. So that doesn't answer the question about if you don't get along, because we get along and we have to get along. It's what we've been told, and that doesn't mean it was easy. All right, we've been at this for a couple years now of implementing this, and it's all about the stories. It's really hard to say, this is what happened. Look at Georgina. We can give many, many stories of how this is valuable to the company. And we've got some more questions over here. So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Hi. A couple, I'm going to call them questions. They're probably more like statements. We're always up against balancing the mission that we have, which is to keep people housed and to do all the good stuff, with our portfolio needs. We have 14 properties. We're a nonprofit, probably like everyone else in this room, so the money's not there. When we get involved in eviction process, sometimes I think it's really important to remember that while it is our job to keep people housed, it's also our job to house the next person who's in line.
Yes.
And sometimes we hold space for people for this year, for 2 years, and that other person is, one, not getting into our housing, and secondarily, because our property management and our resources are separate, we own the properties, we hire property management to manage it for us, but we're the resident services. The money lands on us. So if you have a person who stays under, you've kept them from getting evicted, the turn can end up being $20, $30, $40, $50,000. And I don't know very many nonprofits who can afford that. And at some point you get put in a position where some of us nonprofits are, where it's like, can we keep doing this? If the mission is to keep people housed, the mission is also to keep ourselves
sustainable.
But
Yeah.
in the process of the action plan, we are, in a sense, doing a little bit of a turn. We are getting it cleaned up. I had one situation where I went into an inspection and nobody else noticed it, but I saw this was a room that was packed wall to wall, floor to ceiling boxes. And I saw in the very far upper corner, I saw a little bit of organic growth. And so this person's action plan was to clear all the boxes away from her walls so that we could go in and have a remediation of the mold that was growing. When she moved these boxes away, the entire walls were covered with organic growth. And imagine how much damage would continue to be happening if she hadn't been on this action plan. And then eventually when she did, unfortunately, she would probably stay there the rest of her life. So if she passed away, we would be dealing with all of her property, all of her abandoned property, and then discovering this mold after she moved out. Whereas with her action plan, we discovered it. We got her to clean a lot of her stuff out. We took care of the mold situation, and she's still living there, and she's still working on reducing the amount of things in her home. So we kind of have been doing a turn while she's living there, in a sense. Did you have another thing you wanted to add? No? We have one
So
more?
we're being told that we have, I think, 3 more minutes. Is that about right? So, Miriam, sprint.
I didn't have breakfast, you guys. Okay.
So we work with serious and persistent mental illness individuals, and 2 things. I think it should be counted as a success when we discover that someone cannot live on their own and that we move them into better housing. So I think that's something that always should be recognized. But the second thing is the agreement that you do, the action plan, used is that provided for the eviction process if it goes to that point? If they decide to step away from their agreement, can it be used by the property managers in the eviction?
It's part of our documentation. When we go before a judge, we did everything we could to keep this person housed. I don't see a judge evicting them, but a judge could then write a stipulated agreement, and that would give us the power of the law behind us to be able to enforce it, or it might go to eviction. Sometimes that happens. Yeah. And I love your point about success. Yeah. Okay.
Do you apply the action agreement with non-payment of rent as well?
No, we do not.
It's for behavioral or
Behavioral or inspections.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's.
All right, thank you so much. If you have any questions, we'll be here cleaning up or whatever. We'd love to talk to you about it. Thanks. Thanks for coming. There are handouts up here that are a little bigger than their PowerPoint. Feel free.